How's it, guys? So today's shout out goes to Tebogo, Jack Holman, Rob Munro from Australia, Werner, Chino Trejo, Musa Jaden, Zolisa, John Wood, Tokoza, and Abil. Guys, thank you for your comments. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your motivation. I really appreciate it. And it's guys like you that keep me going. Now, guys, today we're looking at another communal herd. I hadn't planned on doing another video on a communal herd, but when I passed by this herd, something caught my eye, and I thought I'd just want to stop and have a look. Now, just a little bit of background for our international viewers. Communal cattle are typically owned by people living in informal settlements and in the township. These are people that don't have a high income, they have no access to grazing and infrastructure, and the cattle you see before you here are actually grazing on unused municipal property or lands. Now, what usually happens is you have a huge herd like this, 400-500 animals. There'd be about 100 plus owners, and they would get together and get one or two herdsmen to look after their animals and then club in to pay them. Now, in our country, cattle have a cultural value to the indigenous people of this country because they're seen as a sign of wealth. Also, some of the older folk don't save money in the bank, they save their money in the form of cattle, and when there's a time of need, they would then sell off one or two animals, thereby generating an income for that time of need, in any case. So I stopped over here, something caught my eye, and as I came closer, I could see, and here you're going to see her on the screen, a black and white Nguni cow with a calf. Now, guys, I want you guys to specifically take note of this cow's condition and then compare it to the conditions of the other animals surrounding her. Just look at this cow. She's shiny, she's sleek, she's actually in very good condition, and she has a calf at foot on the very same grazing as this European type animal in front of us, who doesn't have a calf and isn't doing very well. Neither is this larger framed cow in front of us over here doing very well, and she doesn't have a calf either. And the point I'm trying to make is there are certain animals that are better suited or more suitable for these types of conditions. Now, it just so happens that the very best animal in this herd is an Nguni cross cow. And I mean, the fact that she isn't 100% Nguni, and you can see it in her build and her frame, she's a little bit coarser built than a full-blown Nguni or pedigree Nguni, but she's still doing very, very well compared to the rest. Now, guys, I'm currently working with a group similar to this, a group of communal farmers with communal cattle. And we've done some training, and I'm trying to assist them and help them to position themselves better to have a marketable product. And the reason I'm doing this is about 2 months ago, I was at an auction and I saw an old gogo there of about 80 years old. She brought in a bull, she brought in a cow with a calf. She got 3,000 Rand for the calf, she got 3,000 Rand for the cow, and she got 9,000 Rand for the bull. So for the three animals, she got 15,000 Rand. It's not that the people at the auction had cheated her in any way. The problem was she brought in an animal or a product that didn't have a good marketable value. It wasn't a very marketable product. Now, unfortunately, and I understand this, these guys have given up the indigenous cattle and they've fallen in the trap of the commercial animals used in commercial farming today. Because they get to an auction, they see these nice, big, red, fat animals, and they see they go for good prices. And so they too want to get similar prices for their animals, not understanding that these animals that they have purchased, these commercial European type animals, are not at all suited to these kinds of conditions. And you'll see now I'm walking up to a cow with a large frame. There she is in the middle of the frame. We're going to get to a little bit later. But if you look at these animals, none of them are remotely even close to having the body condition of that Nguni cross cow. Now, this is the animal I was referring to. She has the frame of an animal that should weigh in the region of 700, 750 kilos. There's absolutely no way that this animal is suited in any way to this type of grazing and to these kinds of conditions. And she might have had one calf, but she most certainly isn't going to have any more. She will struggle to gain condition by the end of the summer because even though she might weigh maybe 450 kilos standing there, she has a genetic feed requirement of a 750 kilo animal. And as you can see, there's not a lot of grazing. Now, coming back to the group I'm working with, these guys have three major challenges. The first challenge is the fact that they're working or they're farming with the wrong type. The second challenge is that they have a lot of animals for the little amount of grazing area available to them. And then, of course, the third challenge, and probably the biggest one, they can be pretty obstinate and pretty suspicious. And I don't blame them. Given the history of our country and the way things are now between everyone, and I have to phrase this carefully, there's not a lot of trust and there's a lot of suspicion going around. So I can understand that they can be difficult to be open to new ideas. However, and this is for the guys out there, Communal Farmer, and those of you on YouTube, the younger generation who actually have access to knowledge. What I'm discussing with them and what we're looking at is that if you're not going to farm with a specific breed, at least try and select for a type. Because between these animals, there are cows that will calve on a fairly regular basis. Now, you'll be shocked to know that on average, their calving rate is less than 30%. Less than 30%. Just think about that for a moment. But still, in the winter, these guys buy feed for their cattle. And I want to use an example. One of the gentlemen I'm working with has 18 cows. Last year, he only got 3 calves. But this winter that passed, he still had to buy feed to feed 18 cows. Now, they don't have the funds to buy sufficient feed to fatten the animals up. They basically just get enough feed to pull them through the winter. So can you imagine what it cost him to produce those 3 calves? So I'm trying to convince them, or trying to convey to them at least, that they need to select for a specific type. And the type that I'm talking about is a smaller framed adapted animal. Now, of course, it doesn't really make sense to reinvent the wheel. The obvious choice is for them to go over to Nguni. But these guys don't have the funds to sell all their animals off and then purchase new animals or new Nguni. So my advice to them at this point in time, and this is what we're discussing, is first of all, get rid of all the male animals, all the bulls, all the little oxen, get rid of them, sell them, and pocket the money. By doing that, they're decreasing the grazing pressure on the grass. Step 2, get rid of all the females that are totally unadapted, totally not suited, that haven't calved once in the past 3 years. And by doing so, we could probably decrease the herd size by at least 30%. Now, if the guys commit and if they show that they are committed and they buy into this and they do this, then one can go and look for funding and buy in some Nguni bulls and put them to the remaining cows that at least calve on a semi-regular basis, thereby producing offspring that will still do better than the animals you see before you. Guys, remember, these guys do the best with the little bit that they have available to them. They not flush with cash. It's extremely difficult. And they love their cattle just as much as you and I love ours. They're just as passionate. So I might be a little naive. I'm doing this in my own spare time. At this point in time, I'm not benefiting in any way from it. And I'm hoping that we can actually make a success of the project. Now, I'm just saying again, my project is not the herd before us on the screen. The sole purpose was actually to point out how well the Nguni is doing compared to the rest of the animals. And if this doesn't convince you what the value of indigenous breeds are and how powerful Nguni blood is, even if it's diluted somewhat, then I don't know what will. What's also interesting is there's still a lot of little calves running around here, brand new calves from the season. So there's most certainly some animals that can be kept back and are closer to the more suitable type or correct type. Anyway, guys, I'm at the end. I've got to wrap this up. Thank you so much. We'll chat again. Have a good one. Cheers.